people are controlled 24/7 by complete utter strangers who are almost always none of their family, friends, any kin, or anybody who would take care about them or care for them the slightest bit. So basically, you are controlled by complete strangers who don't give an F about you your whole day, every day. Hey dudes, what's up? My name is Levent and this is Autistic Success. So today I want to share an idea which came to my mind during a bike ride, which is the fact that if I think about it, why I've hated my corporate life, I think it was because of the control or external control and because of the loss of control by myself. So I think that most people in this modern world are simply miserable because they are controlled by somebody else, a complete stranger, basically 24/7, which is simply not normal, which we are not really meant to be controlled every day, all day, in every simple interaction. But this is the thing, and this is also the thing which is more and more significant or present in Western countries. And this, I think, also majorly contributes to the fact that people in Western countries in general, they just simply have a much worse mental health than people in much poorer, less developed, less successful countries, which is completely contrary to logic or what one would expect. And this is simply the fact that people are controlled 24/7 by complete utter strangers who are almost always none of their family, friends, any kin, or anybody who would take care about them or care for them the slightest bit. So basically, you are controlled by complete strangers who don't give an F about you your whole day, every day. Obviously, it applies to your job, which, as far as I'm correct, 9 people out of 10 in the West at least are still employed and not self-employed. So basically, almost everybody's work life, which is 1/3 to 1/2 of the day, is going to be controlled by somebody else, a complete utter stranger. And then, obviously, if you go home, most people here in the West, at least here in Switzerland, are living in a rental, which means that obviously even your living arrangement is controlled by somebody else. You are living in an apartment which is not even yours, where you cannot even do stuff. Very often you cannot even touch stuff or cannot even do modifications. Obviously, it's comfortable. But if you think about it, even at home, you are, to a large extent, actually, you are controlled because they can come do stuff in your house. I'm not even talking about, obviously, about authorities and other companies who might fine you for not paying some stuff, or utility companies. I'm just simply talking about the fact that you are not really living in your own home. And even if you do, you probably have a mortgage, which again is the bank's property and not yours. So then again, you are controlled. And this obviously also applies to basically every other single interaction in our lives, because even outside let's say on the street, you are pretty much controlled by the police in the fact that if you don't follow, let's say, traffic rules, then you're going to be fined. Or if you go into like a shopping center or a shop or whatever, then again you have a bunch of rules which you have to follow. So obviously humanity and human communities and societies had always had rules, but the level of control and level of rules we are dealing with today is just simply not normal. And what I am seeing is that it's getting more and more every day, and it's getting more and more, especially in the West. And this, I think, is definitely a major part to the fact that people in the West, even though they have more money than ever in human history, they are more miserable probably than ever in human history, and much more miserable than people in much poorer, less economically successful countries, which is a very interesting finding and something interesting to think about, because this is also something which I feel it's not going to go away, and people would have to fight against it to change this. And this actually also, in my opinion, also aligns with the fact of not only mental diseases or mental health decline and mental disorders, but also, for example, the prevalence of autism and other I don't know what they are called, neurodivergence patterns, trends. I think maybe it doesn't count an illness, whatever. Because simply life is so strictly controlled that everybody else or anybody who is not completely fitting into that insanely tight box which you are shoved every day, then you are basically not going to be comparable with modern Western society, which means that you are going to fall through the cracks and you are simply going to be labeled something else, like, let's say, autistic, in the sense that it's going to be labeled as a mental disorder, when actually I would imagine that 200-300 years ago, for example, my ancestors used to be shepherds. My last name is Shepherd, literally. If I were now a shepherd in, let's say, the 1700s, probably my autistic issues would never ever be found out or come to surface, because there would be just simply no occasion or no place for them to be discovered and to come to the surface, because simply your life has very little. External people have very little control over your life, and your life is to a very large extent driven by you, controlled by you, and only spent actually with you and your family and your closest family ties. And pretty much that's it. Maybe some people from the village who you also know obviously by their faces and names. And that would be it. There would be no, let's say, sensory issues, because obviously none of that stuff existed. Or there would be no fitting into corporate lifestyle, because if you are guarding your own sheep like 300 years ago on a field, there is not too much that could go wrong, pretty much. And all the other, I would say, advantages or skills, which even now can be more or less, with a lot of work, translated to success, like the creativity, out-of-box thinking, or like the vision, the autistic vision, the visual thinking, and other areas where autistic people shine or might shine, they might be exploited as a skill, might not, but your autistic weaknesses were pretty much non-existent, or had been non-existent back then, because there were just simply no such situations where they would come across or come to the surface. So this is what I have been thinking recently, and I wanted to share today, that I feel that a major part of modern Western misery is simply the complete, utter lack of control of our lives. And this is actually also contributing majorly to the mental health decline, and I think also to the general prevalence of mental disorders, but also like developmental issues like autism or ADHD. I think ADHD also. If you have no consumer electronics, no social media, and no sensory bombarding every single second, then probably your attention is going to be just fine. So yes, I don't want to go through too far from this topic, because this was just a quick idea again to share. But I'm very interested in your opinion. Let me know what you think. And I actually am going to talk a little bit of a second part of this idea in the next video. So stay tuned, be good, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.